Hi, I'm Kelly Castellan. I'm one of Nielsen's OLA leaders, the Hispanic ERG, and I'm here today with Stacie de Armas to give you a sneak peek of the Hispanic Diverse Intelligence Series coming out on August 6th. Stacie, thanks for being with us.
Hi, Kelly. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about this report?
So this year's report is releasing in just a few weeks. What we decided to do was to change the format up just a little bit. And rather than releasing one big set of data early in the year, we thought, well, we want to create a more consistent cadence of data throughout the year. So this first installment of our Hispanic Diverse Intelligence Series really focuses on Latinos and on COVID impact. We took a deep dive into understanding how the social networks of Latinos were impacted by social distancing and quarantining and shutdowns, and what Latinos did to fill that gap to be able to support each other, entertain, engage, and inform as they went through the pandemic together.
Yeah, and we know 2020 has certainly been a year like no other. What is unique about that for the Hispanic community?
It is indeed. And if you take a look back to the beginning of the year, it really started a remarkable year for Latinos. The trajectory was remarkable. Educational attainment was up. Our buying power has consistently been increasing year over year. And frankly, our cultural influence on the country, not the least of which to mention the Super Bowl, right? With Shakira, J-Lo, J Balvin, and just such a remarkable, and Bad Bunny, just, opening to the year for the Latino community, really being like center stage. 100 million views, tons of social dialogue. It was a really important marker for the Latino community. And then the year, there were really some challenges for our community between immigration in DACA, between census, and the fears that our community had about making sure they were represented and counted. And then, of course, enter COVID. So there were really some challenges that had a significant impact on the country and on all people, but most specifically Latinos. Once all of these things sort of came, one after another on the community, the things that have been the pillars of the community, like connectivity, dialogue, and social networks, were really impacted. So as a construct of just the way that the community has grown in the United States was really built on these tiny, tight networks, right? So it's sharing information with one another, getting content from trusted news sources, the value of radio personalities, and really serving a unique and distinct role for the Hispanic community that is separate from the general market. So there are sort of these trusted partners. And of course, social media fits right into that, right? People can dialogue and share content. But it's really underpinned by the need for this sort of physical closeness and enter physical distance, right? And social distancing. And it really put a lot of pressure on the networks and Latinos being able to get trusted content and really evaluate the information and determine what was best for their families and what people needed to do.
And what are we doing in the absence of this physical connection that we have to really get through the pandemic?
Initially when our physical network started breaking down, I'm sure you had the same thing with your family. Your family group chat was like dominated with news and stories, not just sharing with each other, but we all kind of like really brought it way in. And this may have happened, across many communities, but I know in my experience, and I'm sure in yours, we were sharing trusted news, read this, look at this, because it was really hard to distill all of the content. And those were the trusted sources that had already built some social capital within our community. And so that was sort of phase one, right? Was this really intense pulling in and then using those networks to share and dialogue with one another. So one example I love to cite is looking at Spanish language primetime news and news and talk, and English language primetime news and talk. And, the dialogue that was generated online around that content, we saw in English language, 17% more, right? So people that were watching this news content in English went online and dialogued more about it, right? Did you read that? Look at this. He said this, whatever the social engagement was. But for Hispanics, for Spanish language news and talk, was actually 71% increase.
Wow. So
that is a remarkable difference that underscores just how important that social dialogue is around content and sharing information.
Stacie, is there anything else you want to tell us about the report?
in the end, I'd say the high level is that there are new digital fluencies that all people have experienced as a result of COVID, whether it's e-commerce, and subscription services that people decided to, subscribe more because they needed more content at home. But Latino community, more than any other group, saw lifts there. And these new digital fluencies, we don't expect there to be sort of a return to normal. This is the new normal. And understanding this gap that was very quickly bridged for the Latino community. It wasn't a slow build. This was a very quickly,
out of necessity.
Right, out of necessity. But just how much that will change behaviors of this community moving forward.
When will we be able to see the full report?
The report is releasing on August 6th, and it's called Cultural Connectivity Transformed: How Latinos Are Connecting While Social Distancing. We also have a couple of fun featurettes that are going to trickle out just after the report, where we did some individual interviews and got some insights specifically from influencers and radio personalities to talk a little bit about how they adapted their content to serve Latinos better during the pandemic. So keep your eyes peeled on Nielsen.com, and we look forward to sharing this with everybody.
Thanks so much, Stacie.
Thanks.